everyone and welcome back to Brush and Bubbles. If you're new to our channel, then welcome. We bring you new art tutorials every week so you can get creative and arty from the comfort of your own homes. We have a brand new painting tutorial for you today and I'm so excited by it because it's a little bit different. It's also one of those paintings that you can completely make your own by changing up the colours and the composition. Today we are going to be painting this wave sun scene. So please feel free to change up the colours for your own painting. You don't have to follow along with me, but I will be showing you exactly how I've created this here. So before we jump into our video, make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you get a little notification anytime we have a new tutorial like this go live. And if you enjoy yourselves, then don't forget to give us a little thumbs up too. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the tutorial where I'll be talking you through what you'll need to create this at home. In front of me I have my canvas and I'm going to be painting in landscape today. If you want to, you can always flip the canvas around and paint in portrait instead. I've also got a couple of different size brushes, a medium square shaped brush and a smaller pointy one. I've got here a pencil. Now because we're going to be adding a sun into our painting, I recommend having a pencil on standby, and then also if you just find something round within the house that you can draw around, so I've just got a dish here that's the same sort of size as you want it for your canvas. I would just recommend having that on standby so you can draw around it. I've then got some kitchen towel, a glass of water, a palette to pop all of my paints in, and my acrylic paints. Once we get started, I'll be showing you which paint colours I'm personally going to be using for my painting, but please feel free, like always, to change up the colours. You don't have to follow along with what I'm doing at all. Last but not least, I have got two felt tip pens here. Now these aren't a necessity, but one of them is black and the other one is silver metallic. So what I'm going to be doing at the end of the painting is adding an element of either one of these. I'll test them both out and decide which one I want to use. If you have got pens like this lying around, please feel free to use them. If not, then don't worry, because you can just add the element in using paint if you want to. What we want to do to start with is just mix up a really light pastel shade of blue. And all we're going to do with this blue shade is just draw in the rough shape of our wave. So I'm just going to pick up my smaller paintbrush and then moving over to my paint palette, I'm just going to mix up that blue now. So I'm going to start with a lot of white as my base, and then I'm just going to add the tiniest bit of blue to it just to make a nice blue pastel shade. I would also recommend adding a couple of drops of water to this mixture, really stirring it in just to allow the paint to become more fluid. So taking this blue colour, we're now going to move over to our canvas. Now this is the fun bit because waves come in all different shapes and sizes, so you can really do anything that you like. I'm going to start by bringing my wave out from the left-hand side of my canvas. So I'm actually going to have it coming up a bit and I might dip it down slightly. And then I'm going to curve it up around the middle sort of section of my canvas. And then I'm going to swirl it around, bring it to a little bit of a point around here. And then I'm going to swoop it back and then do a sort of curve-like shape so I get that nice wave-like shape within there. And then this side, I'm going to bring it up, maybe even add a little bit of a wobble in there. And then this side is going to come up slightly higher, I think, than the other side. And then it's going to come off the other end of my canvas. So there I have my very rough first kind of wave shape. And then what I'm going to do, still using this really light shade of blue, is I'm just going to add the other stripes within my wave. So again, you can be so free with this. That's what's so great about a painting like this. We're going quite abstract and stylized. It's almost like a poster. So I'm going to start from the tip of my wave. I'm just going to do another line kind of within the line that I've already drawn, but I'm not going to make it totally the same. It can have a little bit of a wobble. It might come down a little bit further over here. And then I think my next line might just come out from the same point. So from this tip of this wave, I might actually just swoop it around and bring it so that it meets this line. So remember, you don't have to follow along with the lines I'm drawing for my wave. You can really make your painting your own. I'm just making sure that I paint the sides of my canvas now while I'm working with these lines, just so that it follows along around the side so the canvas looks nice and finished. If you've watched any of our other tutorials, you know that I like to paint the sides of the canvas. So for my next line, I think I'm going to bring it from around here and like swoop it around to follow up with this kind of wave, wrapping it around the side. I might even bring another one from this line here, and it might just wobble along till it comes to the edge as well. I might have one more just at the very base of my canvas, so it sort of looks like it's going off the edge. Again, just adding a bit of a wobble to it. So there I have a very, very light pastel design for my wave. What I suggest now is just giving your brush a good wash in your water. I'm moving over to my slightly bigger brush now because I'm going to start creating a few different shades of blues and greens that I can then paint within these lines. So I'm going to start with my first colour. So I'm going to pick up some white as my base. I'm then going to add some blue to this and also a little bit of my dark green. And I'm just going to give it a really good mix. Now, the great thing about art, and one of the reasons I love painting so much, is you can just create all sorts of different shades and colours, and you can just have an experiment. So you can't really go wrong with these shades that we're making. If you wanted to go multicoloured, you also can. So I've got my first blue shade, and actually what I'm going to do is I'm not going to wash off my brush. I'm just going to pick up some more white as my base, move it over to a spare bit of my palette. And to this, I'm going to add even more blue, and then both of my shades of green. And I'm going to give that a mix and see what colour I come up with. So that's given me more of a turquoise kind of tropical blue. So for my next shade, again, I'm not going to wash off my brush. I'm just going to pick up even more blue. And to this, I'm going to add some yellow. And I'm just going to mix it in with the colour that I already had on my brush and see what I end up with. That's given me more of a sort of earthy like tone of green. For my last colour, I'm going to experiment a little bit. Again, I'm not washing off my brush, but I'm going to pick up some white paint, a little bit of blue, and I'm going to add a tiny bit of pink to this mixture, and I'm just going to give it a mix, again, just with the colour that's left on my brush. And adding that pink in should give us more of a purple kind of undertone. So I'm actually going to add even more pink to this. So here I have 4 different shades of bluey green colours that I'm going to use for my wave. And if I need to mix up any more, I might do so afterwards, but I'm going to start with this. It's up to you what paintbrush you want to use for this as well. You might want to switch between your bigger one and your smaller one, depending on the size of the line. I'm going to start with this colour that I've already got on my brush, which is the one that I mixed the pink in with. And I might just add this to the base of my wave, and I'm just carefully going over that line at the very base. You might also want to add a little bit of water to your mixture. I do always help. It just allows the paint to apply to the canvas in a lot more of a smooth way when we've added that water in. So I'm just going to follow that line that I drew at the base of my canvas with this colour. I'm now just going to give my brush a good wash in my water, and I'm going to move over to a different colour. So
So I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap between the paint I've just painted and the one on top, just so allow this more time to dry. So I'm actually going to switch over and work on the top section of my wave. And I think I'm going to use this bright blue, the blue that I made at the beginning. So picking up my medium brush again, I'm just going to add some water into this paint and give it a really good mix. Just going to fill in this top section of the wave, and I'm going over that original line that we used to map out where our wave was. And I might actually switch between my two brushes just so I have more control as I get to the narrower parts. I'm now going to switch over to a different wave and a different colour. So I'm just going to wash off my brush. And for this, I think I'm going to pick up this shade here. So I'm just taking this colour, and again, I'm just going to fill it in nice and slowly, and I'm just overlapping that original light blue line that we created. Just going to give my brush another wash and move over to my next colour. So I'm going to use this turquoise blue here. Again, I'm just adding some water to it, giving it a mix in, and then I'm going to fill in the line in between here. I'm just going to give my brush another wash in my water, and I'm actually going to mix up a different shade of blue because I've actually used all of the ones that I've already made, and I want to go slightly lighter for my next one. So I'm just taking the blue that I had originally, and I'm just going to add quite a lot of white to it and just give it a mix. I'm just going to use this for my next wave. So for my last colour, I'm just going to use this lighter blue that I've just used as my base. I'm just going to add some of my bright green to it and give it a mix and see what colour I get. So I'm going to use this as my last colour and just fill in this last wave here. What we want to do now is just leave this section to dry nicely before we move on to our sun and our sky. So you can either just leave it to dry naturally in the air, or if you want to speed up the process and you have a hairdryer handy, you can simply grab the hairdryer and give it a gentle dry on a low heat. I would also take this opportunity to just give your brushes a good wash in your water and also just replenish your water as well. As soon as your painting is nice and dry, we can now move into deciding where we want our sun to be. So this is where you want to find something round to draw around, and I'd also recommend, if you've got a pencil handy, you could also use a pencil. So I'm just going to place this dish just around sort of the middle part of the canvas, and I want it to come out from behind the wave about there, I'd say. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to carefully, and I'm not going to push down much at all because we don't want to mark the canvas too much. So I'm just going to bring the pencil mark from where the wave ends. I'm just going to draw around this dish all the way to the other side. So you can now decide what kind of colour you want to do for the inner part of your sun. So I'm going to go for a really pastel light shade of yellow. So again, just picking up my clean square brush, and I'm just going to pick up some white paint, move it over to a spare bit of my palette. If you've run out of white, I would say just add some more to your palette now. I'm just going to pick up a tiny bit of yellow, and I'm going to give it a really good mix. Taking this yellow, I'm just going to use my square brush to fill this in. Now the reason why I love these brushes so much is what you can do is you can just push the bristles of the brush down, as you can see, they sort of fan out. And if you just drag the brush around, it helps you get quite a nice sort of crisp line with your paint. But again, brushes are total personal preference. You might prefer to use the smaller brush, so it's totally up to you which brush you use. We're just going to spend some time filling in our sun. As soon as you're happy with your sun, we can move on to creating the colour for our sky. So I'm going to go for a really pastel peach shade for my sky. So again, I'm just taking my medium brush. I'm going to start with a large amount of white as my base. Just moving over to a spare bit of my palette. And then to this, I'm just going to add a tiny little bit of pink and a tiny little bit of yellow and give it a good mix. As soon as you're happy with your sky colour, you can just go ahead and fill it all in. I would say just be a little bit careful as you meet your sun, just because the paint for the sun will still be a little bit wet. We're now just going to give our painting about 5 minutes to dry nicely. Once our painting is nice and dry, we can just add in the finishing touches. So this is completely up to you. You can either do this with paint, you can use any colour that you like. I think I would suggest black or white, or you could do it with a black felt tip pen, or if you happen to have a silver or gold felt tip pen, you can also use that. Another suggestion I have, if you want to, is you could always test this out on the side or on the bottom of your canvas. So I've tested out the silver pen here and I think it looks quite nice. I'm also just going to test out the black as well, just underneath it, which I also think works quite well. But I think I'm going to stick with the silver for this one. So taking my silver pen, I'm just going to start really carefully outlining all of the waves. I'm now also going to just outline the sun with my silver pen too.
Once you have finished adding in all of the details that you wish to your painting, you have then completed your wave masterpiece. I hope that you all enjoyed that. I find it quite a calming painting to do, so I hope that you're all feeling a little bit more relaxed. Thanks everyone, and I look forward to seeing you next time for a new painting.